Hey guys, so I had an interesting experience last night. I went to my neighbor's birthday party and I had a very good experience with a person in him giving me a compliment about my Spanish that was really nice, and a girl who gave me another comment that wasn't so nice at all, let's say. So if you hear some music, the guy's still celebrating, so maybe my video will have some music to it because it usually it doesn't. So if you don't know me, my name is Mark, and this is Language Come Up, a channel where I come up and you do too. So I talked to a guy last night who I just met there at the party for the first time, and we had a really nice conversation that lasted about over an hour. Um, and he genuinely told me that my Spanish was really good. And since I felt how genuine he was, I felt really nice and I felt in a great mood. But just how life is, to try to knock you off a notch or two, I start talking to a girl, or she starts talking to me. She's actually my other neighbor. And we start having a conversation. She talks about how her brother couldn't attend. She lives with her brother. They both are from a different part of Mexico. And I was mentioning that I couldn't tell that she wasn't from Mexico, but although that she's lived here only that she wasn't from Mexico City, although she's lived here a couple months, but her brother, who has lived here for over 20 years, still has this accent that I associate with as being from a different part of Mexico, not from the capital. And she shoots me this line, and I don't know if it was in response to this comment that I made about her brother. Maybe she thought it was a slight, because in Mexico, accents can be associated with social class and things like that. Or if it was just because she wanted to comment on my accent, and without any other reason, she says, "Oh, well, your accent is weird." And I really just let it bounce off. I let the conversation continue. Normally, I would respond, but I'm really trying to have more restraint and not take everything to heart. So, um, but while we were continuing the conversation, I really was thinking about the situation that had just transpired. And really, here's the truth about the situation. If people think you have a weird accent or whatever they want to call it, this is not on you. This just means that they have had such little contact with the outside world, and the way that you speak doesn't fit with how their world of the language is spoken, you know? And this happens even with, our native language. I I'm from the Youngstown Warren area, and they say that that accent is really standard. But when I went to study at Akron, um, I noticed some things of how they spoke differently. There were some vowel shifts. For example, we would say Rob, and they would say Rob, Rob, Rob. Like they would turn this O and make it into a hard A. And for me, I found that a little bit strange, or at least out of the ordinary. In other words, different from how I spoke, right? And if you speak a foreign language and you meet someone who hasn't had really much of a contact with, foreigners, they're gonna think that you speak strange or that you have a weird accent or whatever. I repeat, that is not on you. That is on them. If they want to feel like that, that's their prerogative. Because if you're good enough to be understood, that you speak clearly, people understand you, you can have nice, meaningful conversations, you know, that's what it's all about. Of course, we can always improve our accent, and I know throughout the years my accent has improved quite a lot. All right? But to a native, you're always going to be like, well, a foreigner, and that's fine because if that's not your language, that's essentially what you are. I used to get a little bit bothered not at the person, but just kind of like, I don't know, almost at myself when people would point out that, oh, they knew that I was a foreigner because of my accent. Why was I giving myself, you know, such pressure? I knew that I wasn't speaking like a native, although, I try my best to speak as good as possible, but think about the people who speak incredible English. And, there will be things that give you away as non native. And really, I think that I've taken on this new role of just being fine with my imperfections, with my non nativeness. Of course, I still want to continue improving, but once I did this, I took away all this pressure, and I think that's really what allowed me to just, block that comment from really, really um, hurting me. So, you know, I have one of my uncles who like loves to talk about every single one of my Mexican uncles who loves to talk about like every time I see him, he goes, "Oh, you still have your accents. Oh, you never lost your accents." I went to the laundromat a couple months ago, and she's like, "Oh, you still have your accents." Like it's that hard to get rid of. My friend from Canada tells a story about she has two friends, and one one the sister moved to Canada when she's 14, and the brother was 16 at this time. And if you listen to the two speak now, the girl who moved at 14 speaks 100% like a native, whereas the guy who moved at 16 speaks extremely great English, but something gives him away, right? So, you know, I want you guys to know that, you're going to get all kinds of reactions to the way that you speak, all right? So, one of my favorite quotes is from Jordan Peterson, and he says, "Don't compare yourself to who someone is today, compare yourself to who you were yesterday." And if you know that you are improving, getting better day by day, that's the only thing that matters, because you're always going to fall short if you compare yourself to, you native perfection. And we can strive to get there, but we have to know that there's going to be these things, even when we think that we're speaking super well, that always remind us that, we're not natives. You know, I'm sure if we get a bunch of people to listen to Matt versus Japan's Japanese, as wonderful as he speaks it, as great as I'm sure his accent is, you're still going to get people that will say, "Oh, it sounds like a foreigner," and we'll even put him down. And we all know what an achievement that guy has done with his Japanese. So, I guess important takeaways are: don't get caught up by what what other people say, because if it's outside of their reality, foreigner or not, you're going to speak weird. So it's people that have much more experience with people speaking their language really do know the difference between a good speaker of this language as a non-native and someone who's not doing that great. I as an English teacher, I see it every day. I can compare a million people's English and tell you exactly how it is, but we can't compare it on the native level. My best Mexican friend speaks fantastic English, and I believe that although we should strive to speak as well as we can and hold the native as the model, that we really, the categorization starts as non-native speakers. What group are you in? The best, or somewhere in the middle, or down below, right? So when we compare accents, I really think we only can compare as non-natives, right? And of course, we can have super great accents as well. So just keep this in mind, right? If anybody thinks anything non-positive, or they think that's weird, strange, whatever, about your accents, the important thing is that's them. Let them think that. You continually improve. Alright, so that's what I wanted to talk about today, guys. Give this video a like and subscribe. Comment, tell me what you think. Have you ever had any of these kinds of experiences? Alright, well, have a good one, and stay on your language come up.